So there's been a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth over how bad the Switch 2 screen is. So you guys know me, I am a glutton for punishment. So I went out and purchased one. Now, truth be told, I did want a Nintendo Switch 2 originally, but when I heard they were gonna be using a regular LCD display, no OLED, no mini LED, nothing, I said, you know what? I'm good. And I was gonna wait for an OLED refresh, but because so many people complained, I said, what great content, I gotta jump on this. And yes, I'm a little late, but here we are. I'm gonna go ahead and unbox this and give you my first impressions. So let's open this bad boy up and it's missing. That's because I got a couple minutes in this video and screwed it up, but ignore that. Here is the Nintendo Switch 2 screen. And just right away, first impressions, let me show you something. Here is the old Nintendo Switch. And as you can see, yes, it is way, way larger on the new one. I believe this one was a 720p 60 FPS. This one is supposed to be 1080p 120 FPS. So there should be, in theory, far better motion potential on the screen as long as they didn't screw it up. And from what I'm hearing, they did. And unfortunately, you won't get the full motion performance of 120 hertz, but I'll give you my impressions on what I think in just a second. But the other thing I want you guys to notice is that it's actually deceptively larger because look at how enormous the bezel is on the old one. Whereas this one, it seems like it has a little bit less of a bezel on there. So it is just like way, way larger of a screen. And also, honestly, this might be the largest upgrade is the old one really has like no light The old one really has like no light rejecting properties, whereas this one does. So the perceived clarity, even if it ends up not actually technically being better, the perceived clarity is going to be far, far better on the screen. So the first impressions before I even use it are, there's a lot of signs pointing towards this new screen being significantly better, but I am worried I'm gonna be disappointed that it's not as much better as it should be. And that's why, you know, if you're someone who wants a Nintendo Switch 2, but you've already got a Switch OLED, I think it'll be a good idea to wait, but let me give you my impressions. Let's go ahead and actually launch a game. All right, I got the Switch 2 all set up, and I did actually go ahead, connect to the internet, and run some tests, some motion clarity tests using the classic UFO. I'll put one on the screen that I captured. And look, fellas, yes, to my eye, and as you can probably see, the motion clarity on the screen, as many have complained, is not so great. There's quite a bit of black smearing behind the object, and it's generally blurry. Now, I could only capture it at 60 frames per second, and it does go up to 120, and it probably will improve at least slightly, but there has been a lot of people claiming that the 120 hertz doesn't really look much better, if at all, than the 60 hertz mode, just due to how poor the LCD motion is on this HDR LCD based display. But you know what? Let's put it to the test because this is the only way you can see 120 FPS on the screen right now is to play the $10, I can't believe this, the $10. Yes, you have to pay $10 to learn about the Switch 2. This is one of the mini games they include. It's gonna have me guess if I can see 120 frames per second or not. Let's take a look, and I'll try and show you guys from time to time. So it's got a ball moving. I think it's supposed to be 120 frames per second. I'll show you guys. I'll see if I can play it for you. Like this is rough, but there's so much motion blur behind this thing that it has me thinking like, oh, that's gotta be almost 20 FPS. But yeah, it's showing side by side now what 20 FPS looks like. And the only reason I was saying it kind of looks like this is because how bad the motion smearing is. Hopefully you can see that. I'll try and put it next to my face. The 120 FPS versus 20 FPS. There's a lot more fluidity, I guess, to the motion, but the actual clarity of that motion, I feel like isn't even significantly better in the way that it should be. So now let's take a look at another one. So it's showing me, yeah, it's definitely 120 FPS still. It had a basketball going. Here's 30 FPS versus 120. Again, does it look better? It certainly does. But, you know, is it this massive improvement that you would expect? No, because there's so much motion blur behind it. So let's take a look at the next one, because hopefully this is, honestly, I think it's still showing 120 FPS. Let's see if I'm right. No, it was 40. I'm telling you, the motion clarity is not good on this thing because if it's hard to tell between 40 and 120 FPS, that's not good. Okay, so I'll tell you guys this. A lot of people have complained about the motion performance on this, and after taking images of it in motion, after, hopefully you were able to see some of the stuff that I put in front of the camera. I'll tell you in person because obviously you're going to see it more clearly in person. The difference here between the 60 frames per second mode and the 120 FPS that's showing, there should be a night and day difference. And I'll throw on screen what a good OLED looks like going from 60 to 120. The difference is crazy. And honestly, it's hard to tell even at 40 versus 120 on the screen. That is how rough the motion performance is on here. When I looked closer, sure, 120 looked smoother. It looked like it had a little bit less trailing than 40, but versus 60, there's really no discernible difference. So there's no reason to ever run a game at 120 FPS on this other than to get, I guess, a lower latency. Yes, that's nice, but you are playing on controllers where that's going to be less noticeable. And if there's no visual difference, well, that's half the reason to even have a higher frame rate. And I mean, that just goes to show if you are someone who's holding out waiting for the OLED version, again, like I showed you with the image, is going to be so much clearer. So no good on the motion performance. People were definitely right about that. But I also want to just kind of pull up a game and I'll show you guys some video of it, just kind of get an idea of what games feel like in person. And I will tell you, one other thing that's not so strong about this screen, let me go back to the main menu to show you, is that if you go side to side, you do get a lot of viewing angle problems, which is not great. But I mean, let's be honest, guys, that's not really something that we should be too concerned about when you can just put it in front of you. You can hold it, you can move it at any time. Is it something that could be improved? Will it be improved with OLED? Yes. I'll give you my final impressions right after I play this game for a second here, but what I will tell you is that even though the motion performance on this is very poor, there are a lot of things about it that are better, so we'll talk about that in just a second. All right, let's go ahead and play a race here, time trial it looks like, and I'll tell you how it goes. Oh my lord, I forgot to play this game. Oh no. This is definitely, it's so much crisper, it's so much brighter, it's so much larger. There are a lot of things to really love about this upgraded screen. So again, I don't think it's as bad as people are saying, even though it does have some issues. I'm looking at this right now and I'm like, this 1080p resolution, 60 FPS, this is a big upgrade over what we had. Is it the upgrade I wanted? No. But it is pretty big. Yeah, I just finished playing some of the new Mario Kart game. I swear to God, Nintendo, if you strike me for this video, I'm gonna lose my mind. Anyway, here's what I'll say. Look, the motion performance is really bad. It's like 60 FPS type quality at best, even though it's labeled as 120, it really can't do it. And to be honest with you guys, LCD is dead. Look, for other sectors like business and what have you, sure, LCD is fine, but for gaming, OLED should be taking over. Enough of the LCD, enough. OLED is just gonna look so much better in motion, it's gonna have better viewing angles, it's gonna have way better contrast. However, is it a horrible screen? And I would say for a mobile device, actually no. It does come with a pretty decent resolution of 1080p. It can technically get up to 120, but frequently you are gonna have games actually running at 60 FPS, and that was something that wasn't always the case on the original Switch. So is it perfect? No. Is it the upgrade I wanted? No. Would I wait for the OLED if I wasn't making a video on this? Yes, I would. However, is it a bad screen for a mobile device? I would say no. I would say it's perfectly acceptable. I'm just a little bit disappointed, especially in that motion performance, but I do think the vast majority of buyers, they're not gonna care. This is gonna be perfectly fine for them, and that's okay. And if you are someone who does want better image quality, well then I'm sure they will be releasing a switch to OLED at some point, and I would suggest waiting for that if that's what you're after. And for everything else display related, make sure you get subscribed here on the Display Guy. Whether you're looking to connect a new console, gaming PC, or just need a fast and reliable HDMI cable to connect over long distances, RuPro has you covered with their certified 8K HDMI 2.1 fiber optic cable, available in sizes up to 50 feet and can deliver a perfect full 48 gigabits per second connection over distances other cables could only dream of reaching. And now RuPro is offering a new detachable and upgradable pure fiber cable that sends the same 48 gigabits per second signal through its ultra thin and flexible housing, making it easier to route through walls. So if you're in the market for a cable that can drive a beautiful new TV or monitor, be sure to check out RuPro on Amazon today.